In this video, I'm breaking down exactly how to land your dream sales job in less than 90 days without sending out hundreds of thousands of applications. And this is a proven training. And I've done variations of this training in the past, and people have literally gotten job offers within 30 days, within 2 weeks, even 5 days at the best. And I'm going to show you exactly how to stand out in a competitive job market from somebody who's actually interviewed over literally 2,000 plus candidates in my career. So whether you are looking for bigger compensation, you want to earn $500,000 a year, $1 million a year, or even $250,000, whatever you want to earn, maybe you want better culture, better leadership, a better product, better whatever, this training is for you. So my goal here in this training is to hold nothing back, and I want to give you massive value so you can secure your dream job regardless of your situation as fast as possible. And yes, selfishly, once you land that role, if you are in sales, I want to be your sales coach, right? Because I want to help you crush it. Now, who is this training for? This is for people or sales pros who want to secure more interviews with their dream companies, who want to have a better life, want to secure a better job or career. And this is regardless if you were laid off. A lot of tech layoffs current year. Maybe you were fired potentially for whatever reason, or maybe you quit on your own accord. Regardless of your situation, do not worry. This training will help you. Now, who is this not for? This is not for anybody who has an ego. So if you have an ego, you're like, this is not going to work for me. Don't watch this training, okay? If you're unwilling to try new things, don't watch this. If you're full of excuses why things won't work, don't watch this, because that's ultimately going to waste your time. Just watching for more knowledge doesn't really mean anything without any actual real execution. Now, here's what I'm going to cover exactly today, okay? So I'm going to cover the best way to secure your dream sales role, the truth about the application systems that most people don't realize, and the mistake most people make when they do job hunting. We'll cover also what hiring managers really want, what scares them. And I'm going to go step by step exactly what to do, from optimizing your LinkedIn profile, how to do outbound, to actually book interviews and basically close your next career opportunity, whether it's an opportunity for a 250K OTE to a 400K OTE to whatever opportunity you want to look for. I will show you exactly how to break through the noise. Now, first off, it's important to understand the best way to secure and keep your sales role. It's important to understand that the best people out there, they start with excelling in their current role. This is regardless of the circumstances. And here's why, right? Is ultimately when you excel in your role, this gives you more negotiation power and leverage in future compensation. That's just a reality, okay? Like when you have been excelling in your role, there's a level of negotiation power that you bring to the table, okay? Really key. And typically, applicants that are applying, they're viewed in a different light than someone who has a job and they're already excelling, okay? It shows you excel regardless. This is important to understand. Now, if you were laid off because of whatever reason, I understand that, but reality is if you are excelling your role, you're going to have way more confidence and way more swagger, for lack of better terminology, and better stories to share in the process, which will make you stand out even if you were laid off. Now, the mistake I think some people make is if they're not excelling their role, they think by just leaving their current job, it'll be better somewhere else. But the reality is your sales skills follow you everywhere you go. That's just the reality. Are you running away from something or working towards something? So, for example, I had a person on my team years ago, and unfortunately, they were not performing. I kept trying to coach them up, but they're very ego, and they unfortunately were not coachable. And there were core things that they were doing that was really impacting their life in sales for the duration that they worked for me. So they ended up going somewhere else, and what ended up happening, they went from job to job every 6 to 12 months because why? It was the same issues, the same sins kept following them everywhere in every single role. For example, if you're not a great BDR and you want to be an AE, if you find an AE job somewhere else, if you can't prospect well, it will hurt you. I see this at every single level. It goes from AE to manager, director, VP. Like after you just secure the role, you actually want to keep the role. All right, understand that. So that's really important. Now, also know the best recruiters are typically proactive people with existing jobs. So understand if you actually already have a job and you're excelling in it, it gives you way more power across the board. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't apply this training if you've been laid off or if you've been ripped or you quit your job, etc. But just understand that to be true. This is even more important why you need to stand out even more when you actually are looking for an opportunity because you want to cut through the noise. The truth about the ATS system or application systems. So the mistake a lot of people make is they literally just start applying. I need to look for a job. I need a better job. These are pretty good companies. I did some research. I'm going to start applying everywhere. And what happens? I'm just hoping that they're going to reach out to me and call me, right? The reality is like most of the systems have automatic filtering, there's pre-screening, some have AI screening as well, and everything basically looks the same. That's why I call it C is sameness. So there's no differentiation. And the reality is like good companies get literally hundreds of applicants daily. When I worked for a Fortune 500 company as a sales leader, I literally got 20, 30, 40, 50 applications a day. It was nonsense. I didn't have time to look through all of them because as a hiring manager and running my sales org, I'm doing everything. So I didn't have much time. So after the pre-filter, I asked them the best one to pull from that. So if you understand that to be a case, you understand that sending in apps, everyone hoping for a call is not a good strategy. You'll end up just getting lost with everybody else. So you do not want to make that mistake. This is a very common mistake. So if I've already been looking for a job and you're like, I've done thousands of applications, I haven't heard back from 2 of them. This is why. This is exactly why. Now, the second big mistake to be aware of is some people think, okay, networking will get you a job the fastest. Now, this is definitely true if you have a really strong network. Most people don't. So this is, unfortunately, this is not the reality for most people. You're limited. So you can immediately start networking, but it takes a long time to actually nurture those relationships. It's a good strategy long-term, but it should not be your primary strategy, okay? Now, in the mistake I find some people make, people like I've never ever heard from before will just randomly message me and be like, hey, do you know anyone at this company? Can you help me get a job here? I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Like, you have a nurtured relationship, now you're just asking me to do an intro. I don't even know how can I even trust you're actually good at your job to intro you to anyone that I know at the companies I'm associated with? And that's not networking. That's just you trying to be a spam artist, okay? If you think long-term networking, it works really well in conjunction with everything else I'm going to show you today as well. So next, let's understand what hiring managers really want and what scares them. This is really core to understand, really key to understand because this impacts the rest of the process of how you actually look for a job to how you interview and everything else. What it boils down to is all they want are 2 things. Number 1, a solid or great return. Meaning, hey, if I hire you, will you be awesome at your job and will you over-deliver? That's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who's going to be a rock star. That's as simple as I could say it. And then number 2, little to zero risk, meaning you're not going to come in and just quit on them. You're not going to be high maintenance. You're not going to be annoying, full of drama, bring them issues. So ultimately, they look at people like an investment, as bad as it sounds. What's your potential upside and what's your potential downside? Really simple. Just think about it. So if you know that to be true, how can you, before, during, and after the interview process, prove these 2 things? Prove you can provide a great return and prove you'll be little risk to them. And I'm saying again, it's really important you understand this because most people, generally speaking, are very average, right? So they just don't even think about this. The key is you want to show, how can you show your potential upside and decrease your downside? That's it. And if you make them believe that you can provide the greatest return and lowest risk, they will have no choice but to make you an offer, okay? What most people don't realize is the hardest job of being a sales leader or even running a business, owning your own company, being a leader of any sort is finding and recruiting and keeping top talent. That's like the hardest thing. That is the hardest thing. It's very rare, for example, for like a sales leader, let's just say they have a team of 8 to 10 people, to have all 10 of them be top 1% reps. Very rare, all right? It's very hard to find good quality talent and recruit them in. So if you can showcase this in your process from beginning to all the way through the end of the highest possible upside and lowest possible downside, probably going to make you an offer. That's just reality, okay? So your chances are pretty good. Now, let's talk about the exact step-by-step process. Basically, how you find a job secure. In sales, very simple. You prospect, you book meetings, you show value, you close a deal. That's sales in a super simple nutshell. Job hunting, same thing. You prospect, you book interviews, you show value, you close a job. Most people, what they forget is they're not really prospecting. They're just basically just applying randomly. So they're not booking that many interviews. They don't do a really good job showing value, and they don't really close either, even though they're going for a sales role. So I'm going to show you how to do this in this training, or at least do it to a very high level. So this way, you can just dominate, completely stand out from everyone else. So first step is optimization to fit the hiring avatar. This is something I just don't see people doing enough for some reason. But the first thing you have to do is you have to figure out, what is that company looking for, okay? So if you've been in sales for a while, you've probably heard of the ICP, ideal customer profile, right? Or ideal client profile, depending on what industry you're coming from. What the company's looking for is basically an IEP, an ideal employee profile. Hey, what's the ideal employee look like? And if you take a look at maybe some of the background of the hiring manager to even the job description, they may give you some examples of what they're looking for. They may include terminology inside the posting of exactly what is in there, okay? Number 2. Your profile now on LinkedIn must match that from top to bottom. So the strategy we're talking about today is using messaging on LinkedIn. So the first thing they're going to look at is your profile. So if your profile is not very good, then that's going to impact if they even reply back or invite you to an interview, okay? That's really important to understand. I'll show you an example in a second. It also must focus on results, not responsibility. I see this mistake happen all the time. People basically put on the profile, hey, I make 20 calls a day. I'll run 5 demos a week. This is my activity. The reality is do leaders really care about activity or really care about results? They want to know what percent of quota were you? What big targets did you close? What big account did you land? What was your performance actually like? How many awards did you win? They want to know, again, go back to this, what's the high possible return you can provide for them, the proof, and least amount of drama, okay? So this is really key. So you must focus on results and not responsibilities. This is like the hook to bring them in. Your profile is essentially a sales page. So that's the first thing to look at. So it must sell to your hiring manager. Let me walk through an example of my profile so you get a good understanding of how one could look like to a potential hiring avatar or hiring a manager. Now, note a couple different things. I have my own business, so something like geared towards me, but you'll get the essence regardless because it's important. So I'm going to go pull my profile really quick. So you can put something cool here on a camera, right? It could be like anything that you want here. It doesn't really matter. It could be a quote, whatever, not as relevant. But your tagline could be like maybe your results. So for example, 2X President's Club account executive, whatever. Award-winning mid-market AE, whatever you want. Something that's going to basically hook them. It's interesting. Now, here, and we only post content. If you want, you can write a story about yourself. That's relevant to a certain extent, but I'm going to go back to before I start my business. So let's say what's sent to us. So here, like, you don't have to do this at this level, but like, I shared a little story, right? I talk about basically what I did. So understand, like, wow, this is actually, the responsibility is actually relevant. This makes sense because of what I do now. You may not necessarily need this. You may just have the below, which is, hey, what are the things you achieved? All right? So you can see here, this is like, hit President's Club every year. Here's what I did in terms of projections, right? This is how many awards I've won. This is like all these things at once. So people are like, oh, wow. So even if they don't scroll anywhere else, they're like, okay, this guy looks like he's worth a conversation, okay? All right, you keep going down to anything else, right? So it's the same thing. You just see this. It's consistent. It's consistent. Everything I have, if they look down, they're like, oh my gosh, like this guy has had a track record. Everything he's touched, like what he's done, results. So you get my point here, okay? That stuff in there, that they may not read through the whole page, but if they were to scroll down to just look at your history, they're like, okay, this is worth my time. Now, if you want to take it next level, you can go ahead and write a little story about yourself, maybe from how you got into whatever it is, what your personality is like to everything else. That's useful too. If you get some recommendations as well, that's also a nice thing too. But not necessarily. Now, make sure you have a good headshot. So what's your headshot look like? Does it portray the image that potentially there'll be open up conversation with? Does it lie to what they're looking for? Let's just say you love fishing, holding a giant fish in the picture. Maybe that might hook them in. I don't know. It's a little bit gamble. Don't gamble on it. Have something maybe a little more neutral that fits the image that hiring manager may be looking for. So literally just doing that might take you an hour to do, but get it really dialed. That's the first thing. Number two, social media cleanup. So unfortunately, not people do this, but you want to make sure all your profiles are cleaned up and make them all private. So this is especially on other platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, etc., or Threads, whatever platform you're using. You're posting or putting stuff out there that might be interpreted the wrong way. You can post whatever you want, but reality is, let's be real here. What you don't want to do is actually post something potentially that they're just going to judge you on without you even realizing it. So you want to eliminate future objections, all right? You will be Googled. So, for example, one of the first things that I didn't realize a couple years in my corporate career, because Facebook came out when I was in college, it dates me a little bit. Literally, all we posted were like drinking pictures and partying pictures. So you can imagine if they were to look at my Facebook account, they'd be like, oh man, this guy's just a crazy partier. That could either help me or hurt me. I don't know. So I wouldn't want to risk it. Now all the photos are deleted. I think I scraped them off from the internet. So I think we're good there. But you get my point. Clean up and eliminate future objections. Number three, the Dream 25 list. So either use a Google Sheet or maybe even a CRM. You want to map out your top 25 dream companies you want to work for. Now, you could have more or less. I'm just saying a number here, so you have a number to work for. And you want to have those companies, but what's really important is you want to have really objective criteria in mind for yourself. Imagine if you were to work at that company for the rest of your life, what type of categories and criteria you might want that's important to you. So a good way to kind of think about this is if you've been working for a while, think about any company you work for, think about from the leadership to culture, etc. What were things you loved and things that you did not like? And that potentially could be criteria that you want to utilize to stack against future companies. Now you want to make sure as you're interviewing and you're looking at these top companies, they fit within these parameters. So for instance, maybe it's company culture is really important to you. You want to have really good company culture, not just from your direct sales leader that you report into, but the chain all the way up. What's that culture going to look like? It's really important to you. How about compensation? Maybe upper mobility. How about training and development? Perhaps it's tech stack, etc. Every day I talk to salespeople, and some of them unfortunately get sold a dream. Oh, hey, this is a great company. It's a startup. It's going to be amazing. And they come in and they realize there's something they don't usually have. It's actually making their job harder. For example, maybe they don't have any data. They don't have data for their CRM, so they have to find their own leads. Okay, maybe they don't have a CRM. Maybe they don't have a dollar. Maybe they don't have whatever. Like just things that perhaps maybe make their job a little bit easier, that they really enjoy, and maybe a company that actually had the funding for that. So just something to think about. Whatever is the most important criteria for you, you want to list out. Whether it's 5 pieces of criteria, 10, etc. But those criteria should be ones that if you do your prior research on Glassdoor, other career sites, whatever it is, you're able to objectively look and say, okay, these 25 companies, I feel pretty good. They fit pretty well in this criteria here. And these are ones I want to go after first. Now, obviously, when you start interviewing with them, you'll be able to fully vet the criteria. But my point to you is, if you don't have a clear target, then you're potentially just going to look for, someone told me this is a good company, or, hey, this is a pretty big logo. I think they're pretty good. You don't actually know for yourself what's going to be best for you. So you can't hit a target if you don't know what it is. So you want to get really clear on exactly what the criteria is. So let's recap so far. So far, we're talking about a few things. Number 1, optimizing your profile. Number 2, cleaning up your social media. Number 3, getting clear on who you actually want to go after. That's perfect. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you a couple different approaches now to actually start doing outbound and reaching out to people. So the first is going to be a more reactive approach. So they have open jobs. This could be on LinkedIn Jobs. This could be on the websites of the Dream 25 that you mentioned. It could be on job boards. But here's the thing. This means that company has an immediate need. This is like a buying sign from the company saying, hey, listen, like we want to pay you $300,000 a year to come work for us because we have an open territory, or we're growing, or we're losing money. This is actually a great thing. So they have a clear need. So first off, you want to look for open jobs, okay? And I'll show you in a second, okay, how you can do that. And then you want to reverse search the potential hiring manager on LinkedIn. So then you want to build some familiarity, okay? And then you want to send a highly personalized connection request. This is really important. So the mistakes that people make is they send something really general as a message. Like, hey, Bobby, hoping to connect. Hey, Tom, hoping to connect. Hey, Lisa, hoping to connect. Because they have an open job, you want to increase the chances of actually accepting it. And they're so used to generic messages. Like you want to have a highly customized message. Now, remember, these are companies that you feel pretty interested in. So you want to break through the noise. For example here, let's say I had a sales team in Houston, right? And this could be the message you send to me. Hey, Marcus. Hey, I was really impressed on how you've hit President's Club every year as a sales leader. It's clear you've built a winning culture. Okay. Saw you in an AE role open in Houston. I'm a top performing rep looking for my next move. Open to connect. So if you break down some of how I've written this, it's very clear. I did a little homework, but it's also like, how am I bridging the gap? That they have a winning culture, right? I want to work for a winning culture. Saw you had this specific role. Saw you had a clear need. I'm a top performing rep. They want a top performing rep. They're not saying I want to hire mediocre people. They're not saying they want a top performing person, right? Open to connect. So if you think about this, because we know they have a need, we did a little research already, they're going to be most likely now to accept this connection request. So very simple. So once they accept it now, you can send a personalized video message. I'm saying again, you send a personalized video message. And this is really important because most people will just write, if they do anything, they'll just write a little text, hey, so-and-so, like I saw you had this role, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that doesn't work, but if you really want to cut through the noise and be really different, do things that are harder that most people are uncomfortable with. Send a personalized video message, all right? So if you're on LinkedIn, you have to do it via the app. You can film a video. It could be literally something as simple as this, okay? You don't have to say exactly, but this is a sample script. If you sent me this, I'd be impressed. Hey, Marcus, thanks for connecting. I'll check out your history at Centos. I was really impressed on how quickly you got promoted and the consistent year after year results you achieved. I'm a President's Club level performer that's exceeded my quota 5 years in a row, and I'm looking for my next opportunity. Would you be open to hopping on a quick call to see if it's a good fit? Thanks so much. Have a great day. Okay, quick side note here. This is before I've applied anywhere. This is literally me following this exact step I showed you so far doing this, okay? So like me, if I got that, I'd be like, oh, wow. Like number one, most of the time they don't send me a really customized, personalized request. Number two, I very rarely receive a video message, right? And number three, it's really customized. So it's not just some generic one that you film. It's customized for each person. The framework can be the same every single time for most part, but you can see how powerful this can be for just opening the door to the conversation. You open the conversation, and now if they say, hey, if the conversation is going good, they'll say, hey, cool, apply the rec, and we have a conversation. But now they're looking for you. You just broke through the noise of applicants. This is like crazy powerful, just to know. So I was talking to my good buddy Kevin Dorsey a while back, KD, for those who follow him on LinkedIn. Amazing leader. And he was telling me a while back, he's like, hey, I have this new job opening, and I posted on LinkedIn. He got a big presence. How many applicants did you get in the first day? He's like, dude, I got like over 100 applicants just in day one. I'm like, that's awesome. I was like, and he's like, guess how many actually send me a personal note after. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like 10. I think he says like 8. I'm like, 8. So 8 people out of we'll call it 100, so less than 8% sent a personal message. And I said, okay, But get this, he's out of the 8. Guess how many sent me like a personal video message? I'm like, I don't know, like 3 or 4. He's a 3. So think about it for a second. 3 out of 100 plus, so less than 3%, send a video. And I'm like, well, which one did you reach out to first? He's like, you can probably guess it was the video ones. Exactly, because now if you think about this, if you go back to what I mentioned before, like that person is like shown potentially that they have a higher possible return and lower risk. So anyone can write things on the resume, write things on their profile to make them sound good, but very few can just show up on camera to be able to act a certain way and be the person that they're claiming to be. So that helps down. Doesn't mean they are, but at least it'll cut through the noise and increases your chances of standing out. So that's a really good first start. It's simple, but it's a good way to really stand out from the competition. Okay, let me show you how to do some of these things so this way you're not just lost of like just theory, because this stuff actually works. People literally get jobs by doing this. First off, let's say I'm inside LinkedIn right here. So literally, I just did a search. I'm gonna refresh this again really quick. I put an account executive, I put last 24 hours, and I put remote. And obviously you can put whatever parameters you want, but just so you know, because and right now we're a couple days away from Christmas, and a lot of people are saying, oh, there's a lot of layoffs, a lot of whatever, there's no jobs out there. Just in the last 24 hours, over 230 job postings were created. Think about it for a second. In the last 24 hours, even right before Christmas, companies are saying, hey, we need to hire these people because we have these opportunities, these open territories. We're trying to hire people. That's really crazy. So that's powerful to really think about, okay? If I was going to say even the past week, this is 1,000 plus. And this is only in the United States, by the way, so you can put wherever you're at. But you get my point here. The job opportunities are out there. I did past month even more, but I'm going to keep it for this one right here. I'm just going to do past week, last 24 hours. So I mentioned maybe customizing your profile a little bit to make it stand out. But when you take a look at jobs, you can see what are things they talk about, what's important to them, etc. Maybe you want to work at Workday. I heard a lot of really good things about. I'm not endorsing them by any means, but I heard the comp is really, really good there. So let's just say, for example, you're like, all right, cool. This looks like a great opportunity. They just posted it. They're actually promoting it, so they're actually paying to get in front of more people. Why? Because the role is open and they need a rock star here. That's just, I'm telling you again, like literally companies are paying to get their job descriptions or the job postings in front of people because they need to hire someone as fast as possible. They're not going to pay for it unless they have an extreme need to actually hire someone for the role. So really understand that. So this is key. Let's say, for example, you're like, okay, this is the opportunity I want to go for. Let's look at the next step, what we're supposed to do. Next, we're going to reverse search a potential hiring manager LinkedIn. So this is how we do it. So let's say, and this is a good example because this is a pretty big company. Let's just say I'm going to open up Workday like this. Let's just say I'm going to go to people, and I think that was like a government role. So you could go for like the sales manager, sales director. I'm going to go for the VP. I'm going to type a VP and government, if I can spell it, government. Let's see what shows up. It might take a little bit of work to kind of figure out who it is. So I don't want to, let's just assume you don't have a sales navigator, so I'm not going to open that up. So you see this is a VP large enterprise, right? This is a VP national education. Okay, right click this guy. National leader, GTM strategy unknown, but we'll take a little peek at him. He's FinOps, global partners. So you see, I'm just looking, because it's a big organization, they probably have someone just for government only, and potentially even just for state governments potentially as a result. Okay. You can keep going if you want, but this is just an example. You can get my point what I'm doing here. Let me just look at this Robert guy first. Okay, he's Robert Steele. If you know him, shout out to Robert. All right, national education, government sales leader, Workday, team builder. Okay, Austin's been there for 12 years. That's great. Okay, take a look. So this is potentially a guy. So national sales leader, Workday is higher education, state government, local government, nonprofit. He's probably the highest person you'll probably interview with in the hiring org. So this could be a great person to send a connection request with. So you can send a connection request. I'm not going to do it right now because I think I'm maxed out. You can send a connection request and create a personal message to send him. So you can see that is how you stand out, by just doing something like that. All right, like that. I'm not going to create a message, but you get my point. You're very powerful by just simply doing this, and they need to follow the rest of this. So again, very simple. You look for the jobs, you reverse search them, you build some familiarity. If they post on something, you engage with some of their stuff using highly personalized messages like this, right? And then a connection request, and then a personalized video message to cut through the noise, something like this. Then you, by the way, when you film the video, you gotta like make sure it's a good video. You gotta sound pretty good. You gotta be pretty smooth. For example, I have a camera here. I'm training here, but like you should be looking right into the camera. If you're using a phone, you should be holding it up. You should have pretty good lighting. You want to make sure it's not messy behind you. You want to look the part. Like you don't want to look like a homeless person when you're filming that video. You want to look the part of someone that potentially works at a company that you're going to go for. You want someone that when they say, oh, they look the part, I'll be open to that. And reality is when people fit the bill of what they're looking for, they're going to be more open to have a conversation with you as well. The reality is simple influence. So next is going to be the proactive approach. So the proactive approach is perhaps maybe they don't have actually open roles right now. And by the way, this approach still works, but you're playing a little bit longer game here. But you start targeting the specific companies on the Dream 25. That's the first thing. Let me back up. The reason this can be really powerful as well is I just showed you LinkedIn. Not all companies are going to post their job postings on LinkedIn. They might post it on, actually, I'm not even sure what career sites are out there now, but they might post it on other job boards as well. Or they only have it on their site because they're just like, hey, we get so much traffic right to our website. They may not have it on there. Or maybe the role just opened up and they haven't actually put in for it yet, right? So that's really powerful when we start thinking about that. So for example here, this has happened a couple days ago, but I'll be expanding my team in probably next 30 to 60 days. And I haven't posted anything yet. I haven't posted anything. I don't have a job rec up yet. And I happen to have someone reach out to me that I've known for the last several years, and they message me. It's basically not identical to this, but because we know each other a little more, but a little more customized message, of course, because of our context. And now we're going to have a conversation in probably in 30 days or so. So think about that. This person that I know has already stepped in front of the line before the line's even open. Okay? Like they're ahead of the game. That's powerful. So you target companies because you don't know if they have postings yet or they're about to post it, right? You want to reverse search. Same thing I just showed you. Literally, I think it's probably the guy, right? Might be a little harder, but you get my point. If you do a little bit of due diligence, you can find the right people, or at least make a good educated guess on who probably the hiring manager is or people above them are. You build some familiarity. You send a highly personal connection request. Again, the messaging could be literally the same messaging, okay? You just take out some of the things about the job opportunity. That's it. You send a video message, you open the conversation. Again, apply. If they have a rack, you can apply, right? If they don't, no worries. You're breaking through the noise, and maybe you open up for a coffee chat, if you will, to have a conversation where they think about you down the road. And I'm telling you right now, the most elite leaders I know are collectors of talent. They are collectors of talent. So whenever they eyeball someone, they're always trying to figure out a way to get them into the company, whether it's now, 5 years down the road, 3 years, whatever it's going to be. All right. So for example, here, I have a guy who I used to work on. I don't say his name. He's incredibly. I worked for him at one point, working for several years. We had a lot of success rate, a very high exec. And even when I started my own business, he has continued to stay in contact with me. And I know it's because, number one, he cares about me and my family. But number two, I also know he's hoping at one point maybe I want to go back to corporate. But he's smart. He understands that. So I think it's a smart thing to do. Very similar. The difference is they just don't have a job opening. That's it. So the process is relatively similar. Now, let's go into step number 6. So step number 6 is the follow-up sequence. So this is very important because how you follow up shows how you prospect. And I think a mistake a lot of people make is even if they do the above, like people get busy, man. Like maybe like they watch your video and they get busy because they're doing whatever and they hope they're going to respond later, but then they just forget. Things happen. So you want to make sure you follow up consistently and have an outbound sequence as part of your process. Otherwise, people are just going to move on, forget, they're just busy, right? So you want to just cut through the noise, okay? So for example here, perhaps maybe here's an example. You can write whatever cadence you want. I'm just giving you a simple example. You can maybe comment, engage on the hiring manager's post, okay? Maybe you send a personalized connection request. Then maybe send a video message on the first outreach. Maybe then you call them and drive them towards an informational interview. Maybe you scrape their email off LinkedIn as Sales Navigator and email them. So for example, I'm going to go back to, let's say, Robert. I use Apollo here. Actually, this is a free version. Like, see, Apollo. Sorry, Robert, but now your email's on blast. But you can kind of see here, I just pulled email, just like this. So it's unfortunately, it's relatively easy to scrape emails now when you have tools like this at your disposal. And Apollo is a pretty awesome tool. They don't endorse me to say it, but I like using their tool, so check them out too. You can mix an engagement. How can you customize the email? How can you make it different? Okay. For example, let me pull an example. Here's an example right here. Yeah, I wrote here. Let's say, for example, I see they have a Dallas AE role open. Dallas Rockstar AE. Hi, name. Sorry, hiring 3 AEs in the Dallas market. Made you a quick video and then embed the video right here. You can see there's a GIF here. It's a moving GIF. So this can cut through the noise. So they're going to be more likely to watch this and hopefully respond to it versus just a typical text-only message. Okay, next, prepping for the interview like a boss. Okay, so here's the thing. Most people just do a terrible job with this, which is crazy to me. So you want to prepare for the interview. So number 1, do some research on the company, on them, the leadership, financials, press releases, reviews. This could be product reviews. It could be company reviews. It can be Glassdoor or whatever. Do your homework on the company. Remember, I want you to imagine if you can spend 8 to 10 hours a day doing this job, then you might as well enjoy the place you actually work for. So do the homework up front to really vet them out. Then map out objections might they have to you. It could be to your past, red flags, results, etc. So for example, if your background for the last 3 to 5 years, you've been going from job to job every 6 to 12 months, how can you proactively sell against that and protect and defend yourself as part of your story? So whatever objections they might have against you, you want to show them why they should not be an objection. Don't be defensive, but you better be proactive in advance. Really key. Put together a 30, 69 day plan to excel. It's customized to them. Really key. How about sending a video email? I can show you an example of video with a brag book. Send advance along with the resume. Now, and a brag book should be something that basically is unequivocal proof that you are who you are and you deliver the results in the past. Like a virtual brag book is great to have. A physical one's great too, whatever it's going to be. And this could be stack rankings, email shoutouts, Slack shoutouts, testimonial letters from customers, case studies or not case studies, other examples of proof, certificates of awards, Friends Club awards, pictures of award strips, whatever. Things that basically show without a shadow of a doubt that you are a rock star. All right. This is because everyone has a big game in the interview, but very few can actually defend it and prove it. So imagine before the interview even starts, you already done this outreach already to stand out. And then you're getting your next interview with them or the first interview tomorrow. And before that, you send them a custom video email that has a brag book that's 50 pages long, that has like proof, like just stack rankings beyond for the last several years, all the proof of how awesome you are. Do you think they're going to walk in the positive bias of you? 100%. That's just a reality. That's just how you start like standing out in a really crazy good way before the interview starts. Most people don't do this. They just simply don't do this. They just apply, they show up with poor preparation, they do a terrible job. So a little bit of preparation goes a long way. And here's the thing, that brag book, you build it once, it's easy to keep stacking. This is actually why, as a little tip, throughout your whole career, as you're having success, you get a Slack shout from your boss or maybe from the product team for how well you're doing for something or for anybody. Screenshot and save. This will pay you long-term dividends. Really key. Quick side note, the brag book should have your best stuff first. So for example, if I have a physical brag book, I have an interview literally in like over a decade, but like that physical brag book is probably a couple hundred pages long. But the first 50 are like just freaking crazy good, intentionally. If they keep going to the very end, they'll still see amazing stuff too. But it's what happens is like, okay, I get it. And social proof is one of the highest ways to leverage and influence people. Number 8, running the interview. So this is where some people also botch it too. So let's just say, for example, even if you were to apply and you happen to get some interviews, they botched the interview, right? So my goal here is, number 1, we can get you more quality interviews. And number 2, have you be far more effective in an interview so you actually get offers. So a couple of really key tips. Be incredibly descriptive and explicit in your responses. So the issue most people have is they provide really general details. If you get a question like, what are your strengths? And they're like, oh, I work hard and I'm honest and I show up every day. Okay, that's a terrible response. Okay, how can you be descriptive and explicit? How can you give a specific example for every question? Hey, really good question. So if you say it's hard work. So number 1, there's 5 key reasons. Number 1, my work ethic is unparalleled. Let me give you a specific example. Blah, 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 blah. You know, when I was in school, I did this and I worked 20 hours a day. I did all these things. And here's the results I did as a result. Okay, so you want to understand, like, the more explicit you are, like visceral detail is key. And you can only get to that point if you actually have done it. And then number 2, you actually practice it so you know what to say. Okay, now also this is key. If they ask a question that seems a little more general, tell a story with a very specific example. So for example, they say, hey, how do you run, when you start a territory, what do you normally do? Average reps. Normally, this is what I do. I would see in the CRM if there's any low-hanging fruits, and then I would probably build a list. That's a terrible answer, okay? Get very specific. It might be as simple as, okay, I'm really glad you asked. And by the way, if this is a question, you can have a 30-second plan to pull it up. So when I started my last company, right, this is exactly what I did. So the first thing I did was I took a look at the lowest hanging fruit in the territory. I took a look at all the closed loss opportunities, look for exact reasons. I built a list to actually do outreach first to that one. Then ones that were still in mid-cycle in the pipeline, that was the next one. And then immediately what I first did was I started doing outreach to all those ones to start booking meetings to find what happened. Because a couple of things, I'll learn, number 1, I'll learn the pains, I'll learn the issues, I'll learn the lingo, the language, and why they didn't close. And then because I was able to do that, I started actually booking literally dozens of meetings my first month. I ended up closing about $200,000 because I was able to find opportunities that were just basically stalled out because we had poor follow-up or the misunderstanding of what the offer actually was. So you kind of see, I can go way more detail. That's just a quick high-level example. But my point is like, share what you've done in the past. I want you to think guilty until proven innocent. I'm saying again, think guilty until proven innocent, okay? So the STAR format is a very old format. It's been around for a long time, but just think, when you're telling the story, what was the situation, what was the task, what was the action, and what was the result? What's the situation, what's the task, what's the action, result? For any question they ask you, right? Especially if they say, hey, give me an example of this, you should be able to answer in STAR format. But if they don't actually give me a specific example, they give you a more general question, then regardless, don't talk in what I would do, say what you've done. So they're like, how comfortable are you with closing government accounts? Let me give you a really specific example when I closed the city of Albany. Okay, here was a situation. Here was a task at hand. Here are the specific actions I took, and here was a result. And you basically fill in the blanks. So you can see how that's far more powerful than saying, if I was approaching a government account, this is what I would probably do. You don't want that. This is also big too. Focus on specific things that's very important to them. So if you have a diverse background of experience, like you sold SMB, you sold mid-market, you sold enterprise. If you're going for an enterprise AE role, only use examples that are enterprise AE specific. So that seems obvious, but for some reason, some people will provide stories and examples that are not even relevant to the role. So you want to make sure you're able to explain. For example, if it's an enterprise AE role and they ask you a question, what's your work ethic like? You're like, I'm a grinder. I will make 1,000 calls a day. I will grind the activity out. That's nice to know. Is that really relevant to an enterprise role? Not really. It's a completely different type of a sales process, the way you run your business. Prepared detailed questions you want to include as well to show you did your homework. So the mistake a lot of people make is the questions they have are very surface level. And the other mistake some people make is they say, what are good questions? Here's the thing. The questions you ask should be very specific to what's most important to you, so you can showcase, number one, you did some homework, and number two, it's important to you, but it makes them think. Like, the question should be like, oh, this makes me think. And by the way, questions like, what's a typical day? What's the compensation like? Those are things you should research in advance. Now, you can ask for more elaboration, but those shouldn't be your go-to questions. So let me give you a really good specific example. So years ago, one of the most important things to me at the time I was working for corporations was I wanted stability. And the way I gauge stability, if it was a publicly traded company, I wanted to look at cash flow, I wanted to look at EPS, earnings per share. I wanted to see consistent growth. If I saw consistent growth, that told me a lot about the stability of the business, especially if they've been around for 30, 40, 50 years, right? So one of the questions I would ask, and I don't bring it up, I would say, I can't remember the details now, but it was along the lines of something like, hey, I'll do a little research on your company. Really impressed with in the last 45 years, you've shown double-digit EPS growth every single year, except for 2008. But relatively, almost every single year except for that 1 year. That's been really impressive. In addition to that, the cash flow has consistently grown as well based off X, Y, and Z. Can you help me understand what are specific things a company is focused on from a strategy perspective that's led to that consistent EPS growth? And what do you see for the future? Just think about it for a second. Most people aren't asking questions like this. Now they're like, oh, shoot. And when they think, I now stand out in a really good way. I'm not just asking arbitrary questions. That was important to me because I really want to know, if I go here, will the company fold? I didn't want that to happen. So really key. Or let's say, for example, what's really important to you is you want a leader who's going to actually develop you and help you grow and help train, develop you. Maybe it's really important to you. Instead of saying, oh, how do you develop your team? How do you train them? Terrible question. That's a very average question. Instead, ask them for a specific example. Hey, can you give me a specific example of someone you brought in new to your company and you developed and trained them to be a rock star and got them promoted? Who was that person? What exactly did you do? So you want to see, how do they think? What's their methodology? Or they do it on their own. Like, you want to see how they're actually developing their people, right? What's your company culture? Average question. Hey, if I was to call 3 people that left your team in the last year and ask them to describe your company culture with one word, what words would they use? Now you're making them think. Okay, so this is really important. This is showing you you're doing homework and you are standing out, which is really key. And then you want to close the interview. The mistake some people make is they don't close the interview. They're like, hey, what are next steps? When can I expect to hear from you? Would you do that in the sales process? If you are, that's a huge mistake, but you shouldn't be. you actually need to close the interview. So for example here, this is one that I personally like. You can obviously modify it. It sounds simple like this. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Hiring Manager, first off, it's been great getting to know you and your company. And based on what we discussed so far, I'm 100% certain I'll be your next top President's Club level rep. Based on what you've seen so far, do you have any concerns or reservations that hold me back from moving forward in this interview process? That's it. Super simple. See what they say. And by the way, you need to read their body language. You read what they say. And if they're like, yeah, I think so, how are you now handling that objection? Think's not confident, not certain. Or if they say, I'm a little concerned about your background here, how are you handling that objection? Are you now showcasing your skills now through a proven methodology to overcome the objection? So you need to be able to overcome them to show them why it's not an objection. Because if you don't, just like a sales process, they're going to walk away and be like, I saw the concerns. Versus you actually deal with the objection like an actual sale. Because remember, again, this is a sales process. You interview as a sales process. Literally, imagine whatever role it is. Let's say, for example, if it's a $300K a year OTE opportunity, that's basically a $300K ARR deal for you that you're closing. And if you do a really great job, if it's $300K OTE, that's really $1 million plus earning, $1 million per year earning opportunity that's right there in front of you. So you want to handle it accordingly, show you're the best fit for the role. Couple quick things. So post-interview. So what happens after the interview? Are you doing a follow-up thank you note? It's a while, but most people, again, I'm telling you, even for my own business, like to this day, like it's rare to actually get a follow-up thank you. It's like some sort of slop. If they do anything sloppy, take the time to reiterate your value proposition in the thank you follow-up note that's customized to them, okay? If you're able to have the address for handwritten, that's even more impactful, right, which is cool. So there you have it. I'm going to go through the bonus strategy in a second, but those are the key steps here, which is number one, optimize your profile. Number two, clean up your social media. Build a Dream 25 list. There's the reactive approach for reaching out. There's also the proactive approach. You can do either one. Then you make sure you want to follow up. You want to be engaging and following up to make sure they actually respond. And then you want to remember, this is your top 25 list. So you can't just hope you apply or you just reach out and they're going to respond automatically. You want to follow up. Then you want to prepare for the interview like a boss. You want to run the interview absolutely nails. Run the exact things you learned here. You want to have a follow-up as well. Now, here's a bonus strategy. Now, this is not necessary, but if you are posting or leveraging content, that's a really powerful way as well. Like I've seen it time and time again. People who are actually consistent with the posting, even if they get through a layoff or whatever, they are the ones who find a job the fastest because they have more eyeballs, right? Like where the attention goes, many jobs flow, okay? Not necessary, but it is a nice thing, okay? This helps you build that KLT factor, the know, like, and trust factor through consistent content, which is a mix between videos, text, etc. The reality is you can literally post and answer on the market. So if you are doing content consistently, you can post and answer on the market. People inherently want to help. Again, it's not necessary, but it can bring more exposure and opportunities. A couple different case examples. We have people literally, I train to people in some of my high-level coaching programs. So for example, Aisha, she actually got let go. She made redundant in the pandemic, right? Literally did the variation of the same training here, got an awesome and way better job in less than 2 months and absolutely dominated. Within the first 3 months, she goes to get over $1 million, right? Or Tanya here, she was, again, let go in the pandemic, but during the pandemic, still secured 3 awesome job offers in literally less than 3 months. And literally, they were like $250K, $300K, $350K, OTE, just really incredible opportunity for great companies, even though she was all worried at the time, okay? Or Alex here, he literally did another version of the same training, went from no offers to a new job in 5 days. So that's pretty crazy. He did that. That's absolutely incredible, right? He literally joined my program literally right after that because he thinks this stuff works, okay? Quick summary. You want to break through the noise. You want to basically be proactive. That's the difference here. You're breaking through the noise here. You're not just sitting back and applying. You can break through the noise. You want to be proactive. Remember the separation and the preparation. You saw some of these things. They take a little bit of work to do. But again, remember the payoff is quite large long-term wise for you, right? For you and your family as a result. You want to run like a sales process. So do not forget, especially if you are interviewing for a sales role, the greatest proof is actually how you run your process. So you can do amazing things in terms of sharing great stories, be very explicit, but when they see you actually running it exactly the same way in a very professional way that stands out, that's going to help you. And again, I mentioned before, but the best way to get a better job is to be the best at your current job. If you already great at your current job, even if you go through a riff or layoff, the reality is, this is why like some people seem they have the Midas touch, the gold touch. They keep consistently having, even if they get hit with whatever, they keep bouncing back and getting better opportunities. Why? Because they're already really good at the fundamentals that makes them excel in their role. So there you have it. Hope you enjoy this training. Now, if you want to see exactly some of the best and high paying jobs out there, I'll see you in the next video right here.